Hey guys, I've been a bit lazy during the last week, didn't make any videos. We did play, and it didn't really went too well. I should probably cover both of the previous sessions. So I think this was the beginning of the previous one. But before that, we find a proper save. I think this is the one. Yeah, there we go. This was the ending of session number 1, I think, where we won the war against France and Russia, got Alsace-Lorraine, and formed NGF. After that, I was assuming that we would be doing well, but unfortunately, I don't know why, but it always happens that whenever I predict a good session for us, we end up losing, and then when we are in a terrible spot, we somehow manage to win. And it's always like that, like back and forth, and really can't make any stable progress towards Germany. So what happened next was France and Russia declared a new war immediately as soon as the truce expired, and we just didn't have enough time to recover from that war, especially in terms of economy, because I couldn't keep up with the Russian and French reinforcements. They just had more men, and the thing is, in this mod, if you don't have enough troops and your economy isn't strong enough, when I say economy I mean industry, you can have money, but if you don't have goods you can't really replenish your armies. Then what you can do is send your dead brigades back home and just get new ones to fight instead of them, like the fresh brigades. And that just didn't work for our side because we were outnumbered, I think 3-1, maybe even 4-1. And this war we didn't have UK on either side, so it was only NGF and Austria against France and Russia. Well, pretty much. I mean, Ottomans were still there, but what they could do was very limited, because Ottomans are really terrible in early game, especially before they expand into Egypt and get those decent regions, because all their cores are quite terrible land, except for this area. But anyway, as you can see, Russia was pushing really hard into NGF, and even though we were, I think, winning most of the battles, we still couldn't win the war, because they just had more troops. And then the previous session began. So as you can see, I was down to 5 million pop, and compared to Russian 17, French 9, I think Austria was 11. Okay, so Austria was slightly larger than France, but I think they could still mobilize less because their accepted population is far less than French population. So that war wasn't really pretty, and we had to get some international help, reach out to England. Meanwhile, I was at war with Ethiopia, and I promised entire Ethiopia to UK for the help in the war against Russia and France. They accepted the deal, especially since they didn't really like France and Russia just eating Germany and Austria, and they wanted some more balance in Europe, so they wouldn't have to deal with Europe on their own. They can just have, for example, Germany and Austria fighting France and Russia forever, and that way they can just do whatever they want in Asia or USA or Africa, whatever. Well, the session started, and it went quite well. With British troops, we could now hold, France in check and just push into Russia, destroy their armies, win all the battles there, occupy them. But we made a huge mistake. So because I wanted to, basically winning this war would mean that I could form Germany if we were all together in one war. But then I couldn't really punish Russia and France for being extremely aggressive in early game, and that's why I wanted to do 2 separate wars so we could get all the war goals. Also, there was a possibility that they could just surrender the war day 1 if they wanted to, and that would have been terrible for us because then I couldn't have gotten all the war goals, and that means no Germany, which even though we would have won the war and maybe get 2 cores for me, for example Alsace-Lorraine and one more here, I still couldn't form Germany, and that wouldn't be strong enough. So they would basically be winning even though they lost territory, just because we aren't able to form Germany and I didn't get all my cores back. So I'm still at less population than Russia or France. And at this point South German Federation had only 2 million pop. So it's not a big deal. With them, NGF would be around 7 million, and maybe, what is it? I don't know. Alsace-Lorraine shouldn't have much population because it was occupied for a long time. It would be probably, NGF should be, or Germany would be around 8 to maybe 8.5 million. So not really strong enough. It would have been decent if I was able to form Germany, but I wouldn't be. So that was terrible. And during that war with France and Russia, I'll show you here. Okay, this was during the war. Something strange happened. CSA, well, actually American Civil War, they formed and American Civil War started. This time UK was somehow able to join the war before USA occupied entire CSA, and they managed to win the war. So CSA is now free. I don't know if they have Mexes. Mexes, Texas. But it's still a huge blow for USA. Now, USA, because of that war, was able to get a lot of reforms, but I'm not really sure if that will pay off in the long run, because CSA is now stealing some immigrants from USA, so still think it's quite bad for USA there. Anyway, in Europe, as you can see, Russia was at that point occupying some part of Austria, but we were pushing really hard into Russia from Germany, and they really didn't stand any chances of winning any battles. I don't know if you can see the tech here. You don't, but we were slightly ahead in tech, and I think we had just better generals and overall more artillery, since it was Austria and me against Russia. And France really couldn't do much, even though I think France should have tried to push and break the front here, because UK didn't really have that many troops, but still, player preference, really. Unfortunately, what ended up happening was that I didn't realize who was in which war, since we went into 2 separate wars. Russia declared on Austria, then I told UK not to join that war, but instead to join my war, because I wanted to start another war so I could call Sicily, Sweden and Denmark in, so we would have more troops, since those were AIs. But unfortunately, somehow I didn't even pay attention to allies. Austria had Sweden and I think 2 Sicilies as allies, so they joined anyway the Austrian war, and I ended up only having Denmark in my war. What ended up happening in the end was Russia surrendered to Austria, which meant Austria was able to add only 1 more war goal, or multiple war goals up to 40% war score, which didn't really mean much, because they were already at very high infamy. So they just had to cut down to size on Russia, which made Russia lose half of their troops, but that wasn't really a huge deal, because France was basically out of the war since the beginning. They weren't fighting any battles or anything. They just had a full front line here. And another terrible thing was that UK was guarding my front over here for the entire war with Austria. But since Austria peaced out, that meant UK was also out of the war, and I had no one guarding my front against France. So even though Russia was beaten, I was still in the war with France and Russia, and France was just able to pour into Germany, and I had to surrender. Luckily, I surrendered day 1, pretty much as soon as UK left the war. Tried a few battles, it didn't really work out. Surrendered, and they could only add 1 war goal because they were also very high at infamy, which meant if they did add anything, we could just choose break and destroy them. At that point, we'd probably win because we were already winning the previous one, and Russia would have no time to re-recruit any troops. So I think we would definitely win that one. Anyway, I'm gonna now load up the save and show you the current situation in the world. Doesn't really look too pretty, but I think with British help we can definitely win the next war, and then we'll finally have Germany. Now I just hope that it is enough. I mean, the 100% war score is enough to get all the cores back. It should be, since cores are never that costly, but I think at least I have one thing going for me, and that is that I finally have a decent industry. So even in the case of prolonged war, I can supply my armies with artillery and cane food. Actually, population risen up. I have 6.6 million instead of 5 million, which is quite nice. Oh, that's probably mostly because of Ethiopia, I guess, since we annexed that and colonized this area. But that is going to UK, so I shouldn't probably count that. That's still nice. Get some more resources, more money. Don't have to rely on my allies all the time. Also, something very interesting is that France was so cocky that they managed to piss off Spain, and I don't know why, but it seems like maybe just because they thought they crushed us in the war. So they wanted all the Spanish colonies, and now they have Spain against them. And we have even more allies against France and Russia. I really think that was a poor choice by French player. I don't know whose side Netherlands gonna join, but I don't think that changes too much. We'd have far versus front if they joined on the French side. And if they join our side, I don't think there is any chance that France and Russia can win, because then we can push into France. This way France can actually hold their fronts against Germany and Spain, because these are mountains, so it's pretty much impassable. And Alsace-Lorraine is still quite difficult to push into, even though they don't have any forts here. So it's just forests defending them. But still, Russia should be a free game. It's really hard for them to fight full Austrian and German might. So I really don't see them winning this war. After that, the political situation might change, and I'm just gonna prepare that UK is probably gonna leave that alliance, because they don't have any interest. Once they form Germany, I don't see why UK would remain allied to us. But if they want to, sure, I'll offer that alliance. Why not? Since I just want to stabilize here. And one more thing to note is that I didn't go for Ruhr boom yet, even though we can have it, population growth and factory throughput. I want all the German land to be liberated before I enact that, because then if I just use it now, then we would waste a lot of time of having more pop growth. Also, there is a thing that I might want to wait for electricity for that additional pop growth, and then stack all the modifiers and just have insane pop growth in 1880s. I think that is. Yeah, 1880s is the activation year. And then we would have like super German population. The thing about Germany is that it has much higher province life rating than most of the world, and I'm not sure. I think USA has a quite decent life rating. It's 35. No, not really. I know that French life rating was nerfed in some mods. They have 40 in Paris. Yeah, 34. That's like all mixed up. Usually most of the provinces in the world have 35, except for colonies, which usually have less. As you can see, 10, 15, and stuff around there. And I think this is the only colony that has 35 or 30 life rating. There are some islands over here, I think. Yeah, this is pretty. It doesn't really make sense, but hey, okay. As for the other countries in this game, there was a lot of tension around Australia. They declared some, I think, stupid war against Spain, and Japan intervened for, I don't know why actually. Probably just clearing out the competition in Asia. Netherlands has most of those islands in Southeast Asia. There might be some issues between them and Japan. We'll see how that develops. But right now the main focus is still on Europe and on USA. Seeing what American and Britain players will do in the upcoming years. I don't know. I see the USA is already mobilized. UK has a lot of troops in CSA, but will that be enough to defend CSA? I think right now it should be, because USA should be behind in tech. Let's see. They have 16, so they're not that behind. Actually, they're ahead of me. Wow. Okay, they were behind before the war started. I mean, before the previous war with CSA. They probably didn't expect UK to intervene, but right now they have better military tech, so UK should be careful there. Because if they lose CSA, then they already made a permanent enemy out of USA, so that could be a huge trouble for them. The good thing for them is that Japan is still allied to UK, and I think Japan also invaded USA in the previous American Civil War. So it's USA against Japan and UK when it comes to, you know, just naval battles, and definitely British side should have huge advantage, but if France starts building up a fleet, then it might be evened out. And actually USA could defeat British Navy. Now USA was slightly nerfed in this mod in terms of ports. They have few less of them, but UK also doesn't have Canada or Australia, or South Africa, so their navy is also nerfed. I think it will be a very interesting late game for a change, since late games are usually quite boring. The wars are fought in like very defensive manner. You don't really want to engage into offensive battles unless you have a huge advantage, and by huge advantage I mean 10 to 1 or something like that, because even 5 to 1 or 3 to 1 just doesn't work. Defense is just too OP in the late game until gas attack. Then it kind of evens out, and you know, with tanks it's slightly more possible to win offensive battles. Anyway, as for today, we have a slightly different schedule. We're not playing this game. I'm gonna be subbing Austria in another game. The reason is our French and Russian player couldn't play today, and there is also a time zone change in Europe, but the time zone for USA remains the same until next week, so I didn't wanna get any issues around that. You know, timing is most people will probably not pay attention to, and they would come 1 hour late. I wanted to avoid all those issues, so we're just gonna sub that game. As Austria, I should be quite powerful. I didn't actually check the save, but the original Austrian player told me that we are really strong. We won the war against, I believe, Russia, NGF and UK or something like that, and we are allied to France. There will probably be the repetition of that war in the upcoming years. Anyway, that stream should start in, let's see, 20 minutes, half an hour, something like that. So yeah, there we go. And then the next week we'll continue this game. I could expect that more people will come into future games, especially depending on how the current Tyson's game is going on. I have no clue what will happen with that game, because there are a lot of people in that game that used to play with us but don't play anymore. I think it would be better for both the communities to merge the games, because with them we would have like around 20, maybe 25 players, and assuming that at least 5 players won't be coming for every session, would be around 15 to 20 players, which would be really amazing, because then you'd have a very balanced world, and we could do, like, I could actually play some countries that I want to play, and I usually want to play minor countries or like medium-sized countries. I don't really enjoy playing great powers, except for Austria. Just like in this game, I had to switch to Prussia because we didn't have any players in Prussia. No one wanted to play it, and usually people don't like playing UK, except for Gurren. But then Gurren has no competition, so I have to play something major again. But now if Vincenzo plays, and if we have some other guys playing, then we can actually just leave Gurren on UK, and I could play whatever. I don't have to fight him, because earlier I really had to fight him because there was no balance. Then Gurren would just dominate the world because he's on tier 1 country, and with UK you can pretty much bully anyone. Well, I guess you can't really bully Russia. And French Navy is just not that strong enough, and economy, especially since they have to deal with Germany. Unless they make some stupid deals where they like sell Alsace-Lorraine to Germany so Germany can form, which I really think is stupid, but I don't see any other ways of France beating British Navy. I really wanted to try that a couple of times, but your economy is just not that strong. And the reason is that industry in early game is really not efficient enough. You have to wait for most of the tax for factory output and input, and until that happens it's already 1860s, 1870s, and by that time the colonization starts. So if you don't have a large navy at that point, you won't be able to out-colonize UK, and you basically cannot fight UK until 1880s, 1870s, or late 1870s. The one country that you should be looking to ally as France against UK is Netherlands, because Netherlands can actually supply their navy, because they will most likely have Belgium, and Belgium has a great industrial setup, which means they can supply their navy, and they can have quite a decent navy because they have a lot of islands. Also, Italy could be a potential ally, and Spain could be a potential ally, depending on what USA decides to do. But USA is really not a major power until 1870s at least, so you cannot demand help from them until later stages of the game. If you really wanted to try a coalition against UK early on, you should be looking to ally those 3 countries. Russia, even though on the paper they should be amazing ally against UK, they really can't get the military access towards India that early. And even if they do, UK should still have enough troops to defend. It's not a guarantee, but if UK just gets this Punjab area, they have those mountains that can be easily defended with just a couple of brigades. And then even if Russia has all this entire area, there is only 4 provinces that you have to really be careful about, and it's not a big deal. You can defend those easily. Of course there is Japan, but again, the same thing as France. You need to industrialize as Japan to be able to fight UK. And actually I think Japan is much stronger in mid-game than USA, just because of the number of accepted pops, and which means better industry. Also they have more coal and iron, which is kinda ahistorical, But then again, Korea makes up for that, and as you can see, they have a lot of iron and coal, which is why you really have to go for Korea as Japan early on. But you will definitely be behind in tech. Now UK can't really spam techs like Germany or France can, but they will still be ahead of you, and until you catch up, it's really hard to fight them. So anyway, talking about metagame. Now I had some videos, actually some plans about making videos for each countries, well, very short ones, like 3 or 5 minutes. It's just a general strategy and what to do is each country. If I find some time, which I think I will be able to, I'll try to start releasing those, and I should be releasing once or twice a week. This is not including these videos about pregame. That should be it, and I guess I see you guys in some 20 minutes when the game starts. See ya. Have fun.